Thank you so much for joining the Scholar Trek panel on colleges outside the U.S. panel. We have three wonderful universities who are joining us today. We have John Cabot University, we have Duke Kunshan University, and we have the University College Dublin. At this point in time, we want to make sure that these three lovely universities have a chance to introduce themselves before we go into these questions. But I want to remind all of you who are tuning in that if you do have questions about these schools or other opportunities to study outside the U.S., to definitely tune in to the additional Scholar Trek panels and to visit their virtual booths within Scholar Trek Basecamp following this session. So without further ado, I am going to pass it off to John Cabot University to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Ramsey. I'm the admissions counselor for John Cabot University, but I also graduated from there a little over 5 years ago. And John Cabot is an American university in the center of Rome. So what that means is you actually get an American degree when you graduate. So it's accredited by the same institutions that accredit all the American institutions inside the US. So best of both worlds, in my opinion, kind of have both sides of the view. So, can really give a good scope of what John Cabot is about. But yeah, we'll get into it.
Perfect. Thank you. And Allison, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Allison Lucas. I am a global recruitment officer with Duke Kunshan University. We are a joint venture between Duke University in the United States and Wuhan University in China. Our campus is located in Kunshan in the name, which is about 20 minutes west of Shanghai. And our students actually have this really unique opportunity of studying on both the campus in China and the Duke campus in North Carolina. And being a joint venture, they'll actually receive 2 degrees upon graduation, one that's accredited by the Ministry of Education in China, the DKU degree, and the other being the Duke University diploma.
And last but not least, Kendall, do you want to talk a little bit about the University College Dublin?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kendall. I'm with University College Dublin. I'm the representative for the Southeast. UCD is the largest and most international university in Ireland. It's a major research institution, and your degree is automatically recognized here in the US. Large school, about 30,000 students. But of that population, about 8,000 are international. So we have about 2,000 US students, North American students on campus every year. And we are 3 miles just south of Dublin City Center.
Perfect. All right, we'll go into our first real question. And Allison, we'll start with you on this one. Can you just share some of the, really the unique student experiences that students get to experience based on the location of your university?
Yeah, I think there are 2 probably major benefits that they get from the kind of location of where Kunshan is. So Kunshan is situated, as I mentioned before, just west of Shanghai. And Shanghai is one of the most international cities in the entire world, a population over 20 million. And especially for students that are looking to really jumpstart their international career, because so many businesses, so many corporations, legal entities, international entities have bases in Shanghai, they can actually really start those networking opportunities very early on in their undergraduate career. And then in addition to that, because of where they're located, and especially for our students that are coming from the US, I often talk about those added benefits in terms of proximity to travel locations, because we really do encourage our students, even though they're studying in China, they're learning about Chinese culture and history, we do encourage them to get out and experience all of the amazing other countries and cultures that are surrounding them, even just within 2-3 hours flight, especially for students in the US where maybe travel to Asia is not really accessible, it's very expensive. We see a lot of our students that take those opportunities to go over to Japan, to go down to Thailand, to go to India, to travel throughout China. So many opportunities for experiential learning that outside of the classroom.
Thanks. And Kendall, you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, so UCD, we are in Dublin, as I mentioned. I think something that is unique about our campus physically is that we are set up in a very familiar style to US campuses. So although we are considered an urban campus, I think we feel more suburban in that sense. So if you're looking to be integrated in a major European capital city, but still have a very campus-based experience, I think UCD is kind of the best of both worlds in that sense, because you're so close to downtown and everything that the city of Dublin has to offer. But our first year US students can live on campus, and it is set up in a very familiar way, I think, to US students. Dublin, it's also one of the EU headquarter capitals, so a thriving business scene in Dublin, which is awesome for unique internship experiences. Companies such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Airbnb, Google, etc., they have their headquarters in Dublin. So that's really, really neat for what we would call sandwich years, where you have the opportunity to spend your third year of school interning for a company, which is pretty awesome. And then lastly, if you are interested in traveling while you're studying abroad, I'm not sure who wouldn't if you're studying abroad, but I would say that Dublin and London are going to be the easiest English-speaking capital cities to travel from. So even though Ireland is a small country and it is an island, the most popular budget airline in Europe is an Irish company. So Dublin itself is very connected to the rest of the UK and Europe as well for travel.
Perfect. And a John Cabot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could go on and on about what there is to do in Rome, but specifically John Cabot, no matter what you're interested in, and you know, when you're in Rome, whether it's art or history or culture or food or whatever it is, Rome has an abundance of it. So we've been there for, it's actually our 50th year anniversary, and we've been there for a while. We've got a lot of resources, and I was living there for 3 years and it still wasn't enough to explore everything in the city. And so of course, living in Rome, we're right in the center, so you can walk to the Vatican, the Colosseum, the Trevi Fountain. So there's all these things that you've heard about your whole life are now within walking distance. And we like to incorporate that into the curriculum. So of course, going back to this term experiential learning, when you can actually go to the statue or go to, you know, someone doing a talk outside of the classroom, and you're actually listening to someone who's been in the field for 30 years. And that's the type of stuff that you remember when you're in class, and not just like taking notes on things. So I think that was the most influential part, is actually just being in the history of that city. So.
You make me all want to go back to school and be abroad. I love it. Kendall, I'm going to have you kick off this next question. So what are some of the more popular academic majors at your university?
Sure, yeah. I'm happy to give some examples, but I also want to provide a little bit of context for European education. Since we are an Irish university and you're getting an Irish degree, I would say what is pretty common, maybe not universal, but a generalization about European education is that you often apply directly to the subjects you're interested in studying, and then you ultimately pick and start that right away. That is what we would call direct entry. So some popular direct entry programs that we have it really depends on what you're interested in, because we have a full range of colleges on campus, you know, everything from STEM fields to arts and humanities to business. But I would say for US students, the most popular and the ones that are definitely rapidly growing in popularity would be English with creative writing, politics with international relations, business, architecture, and sustainability. I would say those are probably five programs I want to highlight in particular. But since we don't have any one particular focus area, we are a major research institution, you know, we have kind of every subject across the board. So that would be direct entry. But because we have so many US students in particular, we actually do have a flexible pathway for non-EU students if you are undecided. It's called our Liberal Arts and Sciences program, and that does allow you to take classes across several different colleges on campus before you ultimately decide what route you want to go, and you would graduate with that degree. So that's very popular with our US students as well, if you are a little bit wary of direct entry.
Perfect. And Ramsey at John Cabot, what would you say are some of the top academic programs?
Yeah, so in total, we have 14 majors and 20 minors. I guess our most popular, I would say, are international business. Our psychological science has quickly become one of our most popular, even though we added it only 2 years ago. Our international affairs and our business administration. We do have quite a few business students, and we were just accredited by AACSB, which is great because we're only one of a few schools in Europe who offer that for our business students, which is awesome. But yeah, we do have 14 different majors, so I think there's a little bit for everybody.
Thanks. And Allison, you want to wrap us up on this question?
Absolutely. So DKU is a research-oriented liberal arts institution, so all of our programs are going to be interdisciplinary in mind. And when the university was created, in line with this idea of creating what we like to call a truly global university, all of the courses are going to have a global focus. So whether you're going into a STEM program, whether you're going into one of our arts and humanities program, everything's going to really encourage you to look at your courses, to look at your degree from multiple different worldviews. And something important to mind, especially if you're looking at international universities, one thing just within our panel here, you're going to see differences in terms of how you apply to your different majors, maybe what the process of declaring your major will be. So definitely important piece of advice is make sure you understand the colleges you're applying to, what that process looks like. For example, DKU, our students do not apply to a specific major. The reason being is our students don't actually declare their major until after their sophomore year. Those first 2 years are designed for you to really play around with some different courses to really make sure that you're honing in on what the best fit for you is in terms of your degree program. So I would say within our program, DKU is designed to respond to some of the global challenges that we're seeing. So you're going to see that reflected in the programs. Things that I've seen most popular recently: global health. I wonder why. Computer science, neuroscience. We actually have some really amazing faculty on campus that are teaching within neuroscience and doing some really amazing research. Political science has also been very popular recently. Economics, public policy, especially for students that are looking to get into the business world, and environmental science, and any of those med school programs. So for students that have medical school on the horizon, anything like biology, cell and molecular biology, chemistry, physics, those are also quite popular as well.
That is some very good advice. Every school is different in the way that their admissions process works, and very specifically their academic majors and declaring a major. So for those tuning in, definitely keep that advice, store it somewhere safe. You're going to want to reference back to that frequently. Ramsey, I'm going to have you start us off with this question. And I know some of you referenced this very briefly in your introductions, but can you just share what percentage of your students are coming from outside of the home country? So regardless of not even just an American affiliation, and if kind of applicable, do students need to be fluent, in your example, in Italian to be able to be successful at John Cabot in those courses?
So yeah, we are a very diverse university. We have students from over 70 different countries. Our Italian population is around 40%. So the percentage that aren't from Italy it's around 60%. So most of our student body aren't from Italy, which is great. And that helps. That's one of our biggest draws, is having students from all around the world. And honestly, that's what I took away when I studied there, is actually not only experiencing Italian culture, but experiencing all these other cultures through these people. And no, they do not need to speak Italian at all. That's what you go to an American university in Italy for. So don't worry, everything is taught in English, and we have our own Italian courses. So yeah.
Perfect. And Kendall, what about for University College Dublin?
Yeah, so UCD, we have over 8,000 international students on campus, and 2,000 at least of those students are coming from North America. So you definitely would not be the only US student on campus. You'd meet a bunch of others, but you are certainly not going to be in a US bubble either. We have over 151 different countries represented on campus. So you're in the classroom with people from all over the world. You're living with them as well. In terms of language, I do still get that question a lot, because Ireland, there is Gaelic. So you'll hear Gaelic, you'll see Gaelic, but Ireland is still the only English-speaking country left in the EU. So everyone speaks English, but you still get that neat cultural piece of seeing and hearing Gaelic as well.
Perfect. And Allison, I'm passing it off to you.
Yeah, so Duke Kunshan was designed to be it's a smaller, more tight-knit international community. So we're a small university of just under 2,000 students, and the breakdown usually works out to about 65% domestic Chinese students, 35% international. Those numbers are skewed a bit just because of COVID in terms of students not being able to reach the campus. So we're hoping, now that we're kind of getting back to some semblance of normalcy, that those numbers are going to get a little bit closer to half and half. And I'm not sure how we ended up doing this, but we actually have 70 countries as well. So 20 with John Cabot in terms of our student demographics and breakdown. And so all of our courses are taught in English. I think especially when looking at universities in Asia, this is a very important question to ask. So being a joint venture with Duke University, we are an English medium program. Mandarin is not required for the application. I tell my students it's not even something that we look for in the application. And just under half of our international students have never had formal Mandarin training prior to enrolling at DKU. So a really amazing and diverse blend of students in terms of their Chinese language abilities. So a great group of students that are domestic speakers, students that have maybe studied it for a couple of years, but then another group of students that it's a totally new language for them, and they're just excited to immerse themselves in a new environment and get another language under their belt.
Perfect. And Allison, I'm actually going to have you kick us off with this next
Yep.
question because you've done a great job of segueing us. So
Mhm.
what does the application process look like for each of your schools? And when do students need to be applying? And do they align with the US college application cycle? Because we're a little bit off on our own with our academic year compared to some universities across the US.
Absolutely. And this is probably one of my greatest pieces of advice is for students, especially if you're looking at multiple different countries for your international destinations, is what does that application process look like? And your recruitment officers, admissions counselors, whoever is going to be your representative at the university, they need to be your best friend because they're going to have all of that amazing information for you. So just by reaching out to them, you're going to be clearing away a lot of any confusion that you might have, any doubts surrounding what that process looks like. So for DKU specifically, we actually align pretty directly with the US application cycle. We do tend to follow Duke University's admissions process. So we're on the common application. So for a lot of students that are applying to US universities, this tends to be kind of a sigh of relief for them because a lot of them are going to be familiar with the common app. They're going to be applying to different universities on there. So that is kind of an added load of pressure that we can take off for students. So you can actually apply to the university 2 different ways. There is a Duke Kunshan specific application on the Common App, but for any student that's looking at Duke University, there's actually an agreement between DKU and Duke that on their Duke University application, they can check a box that says, yes, I would also like my application to be sent to DKU as well. So definitely some pros and cons there. For any student that has some questions about that process, please feel free to reach out to me because I'm happy to walk you through maybe which one might fit best for what you're looking for. And then any test scores, requirements, things like that, we are going to be test optional for 2023. So for anyone that is a junior, for when you would be applying, definitely keep an ear out for when those decisions comes out in terms of testing requirements and specific academic requirements. We don't require any kind of specific number of APs or IB courses. But if you do have questions about your academic transcript specifically, always feel free to reach out to us with maybe some more individualized questions.
Thanks, Allison. And Kendall, if you can share that information and as well as information on testing requirements and anything that you look specifically for in a transcript, that would be great.
Yeah, so starting with the first part of the question, our application process does line up very well with the US calendar. You can apply to UCD in 2 ways. One, you can always apply directly on our website, but most commonly we have students apply through the Common App. I would say at least 80% of our US students apply through the Common App. So I would recommend it just because it will make it easier for y'all. In terms of testing requirements, I would say we are test flexible. There are some programs that testing is not necessarily required for entry, and that skews towards the arts, humanities, social sciences, etc. But I would say that as you move towards engineering, business, etc., I would strongly recommend submitting your test scores, and for some programs it still is required. But I think a nice thing is that many European schools are very transparent, much more transparent about requirements compared to US schools sometimes, because they are more objective as opposed to subjective entry requirements. So on our UCD Global website, you can actually pull up the requirements and you can see exactly what you need for every single program. You can see the GPA that's required if you do have test scores. You can see the GPA that's required if you don't have test scores, and what that balance looks like for every single program. So it's very transparent, and if you meet or exceed what's listed, that should give you some peace. But yeah, it's very objective. Going back to the first part of the question, I mentioned we were on the Common App, and you can apply in the fall semester. So as an example, our Common App opened in September, and I do recommend applying by December 1st if possible, but technically we do have rolling admissions through the spring as well. So you don't have to make a decision until the standard May 1st US deadline.
Thanks, Kendall. And Ramsey, you want to talk a little bit about John Cabot's process?
Yes, it's pretty similar because we are actually an American university. So applying, we are on the Common App, just like you guys, and we have our own application on the website for John Cabot. It's pretty straightforward. Even the documents you need are very similar to what you use applying to an American university in the US. The test scores were test optional for the future. For the foreseeable future, I hope we stay like that. No specific academic requirements really, but we do take students fall, spring, and summer. So there's 3 different start dates that you can apply for. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Ramsey. And then Kendall, I'll have you kick us off for this. So do you offer financial aid or scholarships to American students coming to study there?
Yeah, so about 80% of our US students all receive some sort of scholarship to attend UCD. We have what we call our International Student Scholarship, original, I know. And that scholarship is of smaller amounts, but we do evaluate every single international student for that based on academic merit. So based on GPA and test scores. So although I previously mentioned that test scores can be optional, for UCD, they cannot hurt you, they can only help you, and that is what we use for scholarships. So definitely report them to us if possible, at the minimum for scholarships. That smaller amount that we automatically evaluate for ranges up to €6,000 off tuition every year. And then we also have a larger scholarship to apply for by February 1st of senior year called our Global Excellence Scholarship. That scholarship is more competitive. It is 50 to 100% of tuition, and it's a combination of academic merit, so grades and test scores, plus short answer responses. So we recommend applying to UCD no later than December 1st to enable you to apply for that larger scholarship by February 1st. So that is why we have that priority application deadline. In addition to that, we can process US federal loans through FAFSA as well. So you can use that at UCD, but I will say that the only thing we can't process is federal grants. So unfortunately, no federal grants, but yes to federal loans and private loans. And then in some cases, it depends on the program, we can also process GI benefits as well.
That is some great information. Ramsey, how does it differ a little bit being an American university that is stationed abroad?
Yeah, so before I forget, now that you mentioned it, we do take the GI Bill, and I've talked to a lot of students actually in the past year or two who are using that, and it's very thorough. It covers almost all of it. So we are on that list if you are one of those people eligible. Yes, so scholarships, foreign students and, American and foreign students. So we have our own merit-based scholarships, and over 88% of our students receive something from us. What's nice about these scholarships, it's not like you receive it all or nothing. There's different levels. So the merit-based scholarship is up to $10,000 a year. The need-based grants are up to $3,000 a year based on your FAFSA information. And yes, we do take the FAFSA because we're an American institution, but we also do not do grants, and because we're outside the physical United States. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it there. We do give 3 full scholarships every year, 1 to an American student, 1 to an Italian student, and 1 to a more international student. So it is pretty competitive, but we do give them out. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Thanks. And Allison, how about a DKU?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I'm not sure if my other colleagues had mentioned as well, we do have a lot of students specifically from the US that will use their 529 college savings plan. So it's definitely something to look for. If your family has had that savings plan for you, do make sure to contact financial aid for any questions about how to use that. But in addition to that, so all international students, whether they are from the United States or from any other country other than mainland China, are eligible for all of our types of financial aid, whether those be merit scholarships or need-based financial aid as well. And Similar to my colleagues, around 80% of our students do receive that funding. And when you're talking with DKU, when you're kind of getting into the process of your merit scholarships and financial aid, we often go by percentages rather than certain specific numbers, as sometimes if there's ever a tuition increase, by doing the percentages, that allows us to kind of go in line with what any of those tuition increases might be. So merit scholarships are going to be based on your academic history, any extracurriculars. Those are automatically considered like many universities, so no separate application there. For any international student interested in need-based financial aid directly from the institution, you'll submit what's called the CSS profile. So that is essentially a financial aid application that allows an institution to determine what your family's estimated contribution would be able to be. So that way, when your financial aid packet is created, we can kind of mix and match together a combination of your merit scholarships and need-based financial aid to match up to full tuition what your contributions from your family would be. And we also, starting last year, we are offering 3 full cost of attendance scholarships, our Global Scholars Award. So those would include tuition, room and board, housing, travel, and electronics as well. So those are quite competitive, as we only offer 3 each year. There is a separate application for that as well. So any student that has maybe some interest in that or is interested to apply, always let us know so we can direct you to the proper channels.
Perfect. And if students do have questions about the CSS profile, we do have a financial aid session that specifically goes over the CSS profile and the differences and how it works alongside that FAFSA. So make sure that you tune into that if you do have any questions. Ramsey, I'm going to pass it over to you. So for students, when they are looking to study abroad, there's of course that portion of acclimating to an entirely new environment, to a new culture, a new country. Do you offer any specific services to help students acclimate to the culture at John Cabot?
Definitely. So it starts right away. Even before you even get there, we're doing a lot to kind of make you feel at home, and we're getting students from all around the world. So we got to, I mean, that's going to be their new home. So we have to make them feel that. So we actually pick you up from the airport, and orientation starts right away. I do put a lot on that orientation because that first week to 10 days, a lot of information is coming at you, and a lot of people haven't been to Rome before and maybe never left their home country before and really don't know what's going on. But you're not the only one who feels that way, which is good news. Specific programs. So we have a sort of mentorship program where when you do get there, you're assigned to an upperclassman, and you're able to ask them questions, and they're assigned to you for that full freshman year. So if you need help, you know, where's this specific classroom, and what did you do when you got lost on the tram one day, stuff like that, that you can kind of message another student about, and they've signed up to help. Things like that. We have a lot of more ways to get you acclimated. And I don't know if anybody's ever been to Italy. It's probably one of the best cultures to get acclimated to. So it's not very difficult. But yeah, so we have our ways. And during that first week to 10 days, a lot of information is being absorbed.
Thanks, Ramsey. And Kendall, how about in Dublin?
Yeah, so I think a nice thing about Ireland is that there is no language barrier. So I think some of the adjustment might be a little bit smoother in some cases. But first and foremost, really nationally across Ireland, the Irish universities offer airport pickup services for their international students before orientation or before move-in. So hopefully that will continue, but that has been the case in the last several years, which is nice. Secondly, our US students, we've entered a guarantee them a housing place on campus their first year. So as long as you apply by the deadlines you need to, you should have your housing space on campus, which is really nice. You don't have to try to find housing in a city, in a country that you are not even in at the moment. So that's very nice. You'll be living on campus your first year. And then we also have our global staff. UCD Global, we have over 50 people in our global office because we have over 8,000 international students. So that global staff is there to work with all of our international students and their experiences at UCD. So that is a central point on campus. If you are unsure where to go for connections to certain other facilities or other services on campus, UCD Global is that point of connection for any help that you may need. And then they also host events during orientation and throughout the whole year to assist international students. We also have global peer mentors, peer buddies. So our international students are paired with a current student on UCD's campus when they get there. That can serve as a new friend, a new connection, as well as you start school, start to acclimate as well. And then similarly, we have orientation too, just like schools here in the US and other places abroad. There will be a larger orientation for everyone on campus, but there will be specifically an international student orientation as well.
Perfect. And Allison at DKU?
Yeah, absolutely. And similar to my colleagues, I think we're all offering, the very same level of support. For us, that process of connecting students and prepping them for, the acclimation to a new environment really starts pretty immediately after the decision deadline in May. So we'll start connecting students together just to start those little community building activities. So that way they may have a couple of people that they know and feel connected to even before joining us on campus. And like my colleagues, we do the orientation events once you arrive on campus. And in addition to that, we do offer, so we have our counseling and psychological services, or CAPS programs. So those are all people that are designed to essentially tend to the mental health and well-being of our students and their emotional health as well too, because the process of living and studying abroad, especially in a culture where there may be significant language barriers, especially for our students who maybe haven't ever been exposed to Mandarin before. That process of acclimating to a new culture is different for everybody. When I was living and studying abroad, my experience was very different from all of my friends, even though we were at the same university. So I really encourage our students meeting with one of those CAPS mentors, because they're going to help them to really start building those tools, connecting them with some of the different support programs, community members. So that way they're not only having a successful study abroad experience, but they're genuinely enjoying it, because that's what we want with our students, to enjoy living abroad. And then in addition to that, we have a number of different programs that will be running throughout the semester, really encouraging students to connect not only with their international peers, but also connecting with our domestic students as well. And we're really lucky that our domestic Chinese students are so passionate about kind of taking international students under their wing, maybe running with them, kind of helping them to figure out the very extensive public transportation system in China, maybe help them setting up their phone, bank accounts, things like that. So they're really quite lucky in terms of the support that they get. To make sure that they're really acclimated well once they arrive on campus.
Thanks, Allison. And Kendall, I'll pass it off to you for this next question. So, we talked about acclimating, but on the academic side and experiential learning side, what are some of the different opportunities that students can take advantage of, or that they can lean on for that additional academic support?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do want to highlight probably three main services that we have on campus that you'd probably be familiar with here in the US that we also have abroad. One, the Career Services Center, but we also have access to lifelong learning and tutoring centers, writing centers as well. I would say specifically for access to lifelong learning, if you have any physical or learning difference, that is the office that you can work with the summer before you arrive to ensure that you have the proper supports in place for academic success in the classroom. Otherwise, we also have advisors in every college that is your go-to, your key person to meet with, just to make sure that, if you have any questions about the course or your major, classes, etc., they are, your go-to person if you need that additional support. In terms of experiential learning, you can study abroad for your degree and study abroad again if you want to. Every program at UCD has that opportunity to either do a semester or year-long study abroad program. Every school has different partnerships with different universities around the world. So that's an opportunity, is to go through your school on campus to a specific program, or the US students can participate in the European Union Erasmus Exchange program, which is really nice. That makes studying abroad even more affordable, because sometimes the Erasmus program will pay you to go abroad. So that's cool. But students can also intern as well. Internships in Ireland are more often paid than not compared to the US. So you can walk away from school with an entire year of work experience which is an awesome thing for your resume. And then there's lots of research opportunities as well, but that would vary by school, professor, et cetera. You'd work directly with the faculty members for that type of opportunity.
Thanks, Kendall. And Allison at DKU?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the major benefits of DKU being this newer institution where our Duke faculty actually hand design each of these programs is they had a little bit of flexibility to really make it very progressive, very modern. So all of our degree programs, no matter what program that you're in, classes will always run Monday through Thursday, and Fridays are designed and built in to be experiential learning days. So whether you want to use those days to join and help build your communities. Maybe you're looking at different extracurricular opportunities. Maybe you're joining a sports club. Maybe you want to use that to start looking at internships later on. Those Fridays are always there and kind of blocked off for students to use that time to essentially learn outside of the classroom as well. And so we are a research-oriented institution. So our Research Institute is here to help guide students through what the process of research looks like. There are actually 4 different types of research available on campus, whether students want to maybe join a specific faculty member on their research, if a student has a particular research project that they want to bring forth and help maybe look for some different funding, that type is also available to them as well too. Students can study abroad. So I often mention that our students will study on both campuses, both in China and the US, but that junior year study away program that's baked into the program, there's actually 7 or 8 campuses that you can go to. So a lot of different options, but I think it's somewhere maybe 97 or 98% of our students do choose to go to Duke University for that study away semester, just because a lot of them are looking for that experience to study on the campus in North Carolina. So just want to make sure students know that if you're not maybe necessarily looking to go to Duke University, you want a third global destination, there are other campuses available for you during that time too. Our career services are here for internships. I'll probably touch on them a little bit later on in some of our other questions, but they're here to start guiding you on maybe reaching out to different internship programs. If you're looking for something during the school year, if you're looking for something maybe during a summer break, if you're looking for something in China, looking for something a little bit more globally, they'll sit down with our students, kind of get a feel for what they're looking for, and then start connecting them with some different opportunities there. And lastly, we also have our DKU Quests. So I know I touched on earlier, just kind of really taking advantage of all the travel that's possible within China and the surrounding countries. So about 2 or 3 times a semester, DKU will hold these quests that are essentially experiential field trips for students that they can sign up to. We've had students, they've taken trips to the Great Wall, they've gone up to Mongolia and done kind of a horse riding experience to the steppes. So lots of different ways for students to essentially sign up, take advantage of those university opportunities and travel and experience things outside of the campus experience.
Sounds amazing. And Ramsey at John Cabot?
Yeah, so specifically for academic success, similar to Dublin, we do have a student advisor that you meet with them. And this is something I found very helpful, because in the beginning, we kind of forget what it's like to feel young, but I remember not even knowing what credits were, and I was worried about getting all the credits that I need. And it's good to have somebody who's a professor in your major, and you meet with them at the beginning of every semester and you talk about what classes you're going to take, make sure you're on track for graduating on time or whenever your graduation time is for you. Getting the necessary credits for each semester and keeping you on track. And that really helped me, and that also somehow gained me a minor when I didn't even know I was doing it, but I had all the classes for it. So that stuff really helps you just stay on track. We also do have the writing center, the math center, and we do quite a lot of writing in a liberal arts institution. So that definitely comes in handy. I could talk for hours about all the experiential learning there is to do in Rome. That's one of the best benefits about going to a school in Rome, is that you get those resources of, a city that's 2,000 years old, all the history that's there. And we do tons of trips and activities ourselves that you can definitely sign up and go on these trips. We do day trips around the cities of Rome, and then we even do weekend trips to further places like Venice and Milan and stuff like that. So there's tons of that, but specifically even in the classroom, the professors love to take the students outside the class. Like, all right, tomorrow, everyone meet me at this museum on this street, and we're going to go throughout the museum today, or meet me in front of this old film studio and we're going to go do that. So there's a lot of that. That's something that I really enjoyed when I was a student there, is not every single class is inside the class, because there's so much to learn and use in Rome. So the professors are specifically in Rome to be teaching at JCU. So yeah, there's quite a lot there. And even just walking the streets, I feel like in Rome you're learning something. So.
Thanks, Ramsey. Allison, I'm going to pass this back to you because I know that you hinted on this a little bit, but can you just talk about some of the guidance that's provided for students when they're looking at the next step, whether it's going to a career or graduate school? Do many students return to the US for those opportunities, or they kind of get the itch to be abroad and want to stay abroad?
Yeah, so we did our kind of analysis of our students that graduated this past May, and just under 80% of them did continue their education onwards, whether that be a master's program or a PhD program. And we've seen them really just kind of explode outwards. So we had a portion of students that, of course, went back to the United States, looked for opportunities there in terms of graduate school, but so many other students that stayed in China, attended Beijing University, Peking University, but then also other countries like East Asia, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Europe as well too. So lots of options in terms of our students and what they were looking for post-graduation. So we have our career services department on campus. So they're there to essentially guide you in the process of everything that's employment or job related. So especially for our students, as they get closer to that graduation time, I really, really strongly recommend them that they start reaching out to maybe the career services department, sitting down and just walking them through what they're looking for, because they're going to really start helping them on the resume building, maybe doing some mock interviews as well. Our academic advisors in the department are there for any student that's looking at your professional graduate schools like medical school, law school, dental school even. They're going to be there to advise you through that application process, really making sure that you are fleshing out your own experiences at DKU to really give those applications the best chance as well. We also have some career treks that our career services department will do. So they'll take students into Suzhou on the west and Shanghai on the east and start connecting them with some different employers as well, as along with some different career and employment fairs as well. So lots of different opportunities, but no matter what school you attend and what different support services they offer, I cannot stress more. Please talk to them and just look at what those options are, because there's so many amazing network opportunities and connections out there that really just by kind of looking around and seeing what's available, you may open doors that you might have never even know existed had you not reached out to these different support services.
Is great advice. And Ramsey, I'm going to pass it off to you to be next here.
Yes, so we do have our own career services team. They're there to help you get an internship while you're still at John Cabot and help you afterwards with an actual career and a job. So a lot of people, that's a big thing at John Cabot. We have 3 career fairs every year where we invite some of these companies we have partnerships with to come to the campus and talk to the students. And it's kind of like a college fair, but with a bunch of companies, and you're able to talk to them, see what they're looking for, and maybe give them your resume, get an interview. It's a very big thing at John Cabot to get an internship while you're still studying as a student. So that will definitely help you with the post-college options, getting some work experience, especially in an international setting. I think it makes you a very unique applicant. So yes, afterwards they're constant. I still get, because I still use my John Cabot email because I work for them, I still get the emails that they send out every week for, we have these different positions and these different companies. If you want to send us your resume and your cover letter, we'll help you apply. So they're just very helpful, and that's their whole job, is to help you with stuff while you're still in school and then after you graduate. So
Thanks, Ramsey. Kendall, I'll have you wrap up this question for us.
Yeah, so what students do after graduation is really important to UCD, similar to all of these universities here. But it is a physical office on campus. It's called the Careers Network. And within the Careers Network, we have what's called Career and Skills Consultants. And they are there for our UCD students and for graduates up to 2 years after graduation to help you with post-graduation employment. So, or internships as well. So they review your resume, they do practice interviews, they do application assistance. So it really has a large range of services offered with the consultants to help prepare you for whatever comes next, whether that is jobs after graduation or grad school. We are ranked the #1 school in Ireland the last 6 years for graduate employability. I would say that majority of our US students do come back here to the US for jobs or grad school. But since we have so many international students on campus, that Careers Network is very well versed in helping students from all over the world. And then we have a very well organized and large alumni network all around the world. We have a big platform and resource where you can connect with alumni, search for them based on location. I know here in the US, we have really large alumni networking events every year in many different cities across the US. So lots of UCD alum to connect to back here in the US after you graduate. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, since you haven't mentioned it yet, many countries in Europe will offer stay back visas. So if you graduate from a university in that country, you can often stay back for either 1 or 2 years without needing to apply for an additional visa for jobs. So you don't have to leave Ireland right away. You can stay back for up to a year to look for employment in Ireland if you would like to stay.
That's a good thing to know, because I think a lot of people don't want to leave after that experience. So we're going to combine our next couple questions, and Ramsey, I'll have you kind of start us off. What are some additional ways outside of students, of course, being able to go and visit your virtual booth for some basic information on your university? How can they learn more about your school, whether it's through virtual opportunities, in person? And when thinking about, these prospective students, what's the type of student that you feel like thrives on your campus or would really thrive in a situation where they are leaving the US for the majority of their studies?
Yes. So to answer the first part of that, I think the first option is, of course, talking to me. I'm a great person to speak with. You can really open up about the things in your heart. But I've actually lived through the John Cabot experience and now I've worked with them for 3 years. So kind of know both sides of it. So I feel like I'm a good person to speak with, especially with your parents. And we also have options to set up Zoom calls with financial aid. We have Zoom calls with current students who are actually at John Cabot right now. That is an amazing resource as a student yourself to go and talk to someone who's actually not working at John Cabot, but just studying there. It's sometimes different to speak with someone who's not working at the school. Learning more. So I always suggest this because I know the students are already on the virtuals. I know you're on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. So we do a lot on there. We have tons of videos on YouTube that really just give a good image and vibe of John Cabot. And like I said, you're already on there, so might as well type in John Cabot on TikTok or Instagram and find a few videos, find a few testimonials. We've done a lot of webinars over the last 3 years because of our, COVID and the virtual options. But I mean, you can learn a lot through our online resources with social media. The second part of the question, which was, so what students, so some aspects that our students, besides the GPA and the application stuff, this is a question I get a lot. I think there's a few aspects like being independent is a huge thing for going abroad. It's, of course, you will work on that once you're there, but having a little bit of, self-sufficiency, being able to depend on yourself when you need to, and showing that in the application process, maybe in the interview, having that maturity to actually go abroad, appreciation for culture and open-mindedness. And, you're going to be meeting people from all around the world. So all of those are very important aspects to make sure you can thrive being so far from home.
Perfect. And Kendall, I'll pass it off to you next.
Yeah, in terms of the type of student and those that would thrive abroad, I would definitely echo what Ramsey said. But in terms of how students can learn more about our university, similar to Ramsey, the UCD Global has great social media accounts, YouTube accounts. So definitely check those out. And then also we too can schedule Zooms with different academic departments if you'd like, different services, federal aid, et cetera, if you want to learn more in a one-on-one setting. And then advisors, I'm here, I work with students from now until when you actually get on that plane and go. And I would say that that's similar to to other schools abroad as well. Definitely utilize the advisors that each school has or the representatives, whether they are in that host country or they're based here in the US, because we are here to help you. That's what we want to do. So don't hesitate to reach out, because that's what we're here for, and we want you to make the most informed decision possible. So definitely reach out. But we have a virtual tour as well. So that's, thanks to COVID, we have that great resource, which I think is similar to a lot of universities abroad as well, especially because it can be difficult to actually get over there and see the campus. So definitely utilize those virtual tours. And then we have a couple of reoccurring events that happen either once a semester or once a year. So we actually have a virtual open house coming up this Saturday, actually. So that's a great opportunity to hear more about the university, but then also go into breakout rooms with specific academic colleges to learn about the different majors. And then every year we actually have a Thanksgiving event in person, because we have so many US students on campus every year. We have a lot of North American families that are coming over to visit campus during that holiday break. That's a great time to come to campus because UCD students are still in school. That is a little different. We don't have Thanksgiving break at UCD. So you can really see campus in action. We have a Thanksgiving dinner. So we have a meal for you and your families if you would like. And then the following day is really the main open house event, where we have mock lectures, campus tours, federal aid sessions, etc. So if you are considering doing a European campus tour trip, I would suggest maybe considering Thanksgiving break and coming on over.
Well, I wish I could change my plans now. That's what I would be doing for Thanksgiving. All right, Allison, if you want to take us home here.
You got it. I cannot agree more with my colleagues that oftentimes one of the greatest resources is going to be your recruitment officer or your admissions counselor, whatever title they go by, especially because a lot of them have studied or lived abroad themselves and can really walk you through maybe some personal struggles they had, how they overcame those, really help students to kind of pick up on those tools that can help them when they are looking to study abroad or live abroad. And then in addition to that, I know many of my colleagues may agree. I know personally, I'm always happy to walk students through questions they might have that may not specifically relate to DKU. If they have questions about what to look for when applying, maybe how to orient their essays the right way, if they have questions about financial aid, what to look for, I'm always happy to walk through students with that process. So that way they feel more confident no matter what university they're looking for. And then for DKU specifically, like many of my colleagues, we have your kind of gamut of virtual events that are always going on. We often have student panels where our current students and alumni will sit down and talk about their experiences. We often have parent panels as well too, where I think that's especially helpful for parents when looking at maybe sending their kid abroad. I think it can be very helpful to kind of hear the experience from parents that have already been through that process, any kind of fears and doubts that they had, and really how they kind of worked through that as a family. We also have faculty chats, virtual tours as well that are hosted and held by our current students on campus. And we also have our student ambassadors that I think are a really great resource for students to sit down and just get a very unfiltered kind of perspective of the university, talk about, the good and the bad, because every university will have that. And our YouTube as well. We have lots of events. We have different vlogs by some of our students. And just, I think there is a really great way to see what the university is like, especially for universities that maybe aren't super accessible to actually visit in person. I think a lot of those very visual YouTube pieces, virtual tours, are a great way to really kind of immerse yourself and see what the campus would be like, especially from the student perspective. And I only have a couple more pieces to add on who and what kind of student might thrive on an international campus. We've talked a lot about that independence, that adaptability that's really required, that open-mindedness, especially for DKU and just my own personal experience. I found that where students are really drawn to us that have a hunger to experience more. We have so many students that were drawn to DKU because they have that hunger and passion to experience things that may not have been available to them in their city, their state, or even their country. So we have a lot of students that really are just kind of ravenous to push themselves outside of their comfort zone a bit, to really experience things that they may have never thought that they could experience. And of course, students that really value cross-cultural collaboration, that is really the foundation behind what makes DKU DKU, is this idea of really just ingraining yourselves into an international community as well. And also because DKU was designed to really kind of fortify and train students to be global leaders in their fields, students that have demonstrated leadership, that have taken on leadership roles in their extracurriculars, their sports teams, their home life, and students that have, that kind of drive an initiative to really make the most of their 4 years with us.
Thanks, Allison. Well, thank you so much, panelists, for sharing all of this valuable information. Viewers, thank you for watching. Don't forget to visit each of these colleges' virtual booths to connect with them and learn more. We're going to flash their logos here in just a second, so it's easy for you to find them. But we encourage you to take advantage of the other college panels, workshops, virtual booths found within Basecamp. And thank you from the entire Scholar Trek team for tuning in.